Okay. Okay, let us continue back here. The following papers I will show it to you will be the following one will be the forecasting the value at risk using the high frequency data, the real-life range model. So this research paper will be related to the um, financial application. Therefore, in this paper, they will have provide the two data sets in this paper. Okay, so they have a two data set here. So in their data set here, they also provide you the summary statistic because this summary statistic will be useful for you to demonstrate to present what the data you obtain, and then from the data from the summary statistics itself, we will know that what is the distribution of your data set. For example, if your data is a normally distributed or your data is a positive skew or the negative skew. So all these summary statistics will be very important criteria to present whatever the data you have. But also depends on the nature of the research you are working on. Okay, so in this paper number 8 here, instead of the providing the data set and the summary statistic, a few of the hypothesis testing, they are also very important. Okay, so for example, in this here, because they are concentrate on the value at risk. So in the finance, the value at risk is one of the criteria here. It's about the risk measure. So there is a test to test it out. So the author itself also will be use the hypothesis testing to justify that the calculated values they pass the suggested the pass the test, the what the test is called the back test. Okay, and then at the same time they also check the Pearson goodness of fit of the data set. Okay, so this one, even though you can observe that they are finance, but a lot of the works from them, they are related to the statistic. Okay, so let us go through this one. This is one of the papers where they use the what I want to say is a financial. Of course, this thing is a financial the methodology, but when we go through the data here, yeah, about the let me go through it this here. Yeah, because when they apply the model here, they have claimed that from their sample statistic, means that the summary statistic, they have found that the distribution of the summary strategy show you that the return are obviously skewed and the heavy tier. So where this thing, if they have a skewed and the heavy tier, if you're using the traditional normal distribution or the student T, they may not be work properly. Okay, so therefore, the author here was suggested using the skewed student T distribution. So the skewed version of the student T distribution, where the distribution were given, the PDF function of the distribution were given by the following one. Okay, so if you know the distribution also is not working at all because you need to incorporate this distribution in your model. You need to derive out the equation for your model. Okay, you not just using the distribution. Okay, so they need to put in your the model. Of course, you need to deal with a lot of transformation, the estimation problem, all these statistic problem will be come in. Okay. So they take care about the skilled student T distribution. Okay, so in their application wise, they also will be because they consider the skilled student T distribution, then they also carry out the goodness of fit. Okay, the goodness of fit, whether they will pass through this type of the goodness of fit or not. Okay, after that they calculate the certain measure. This measure is called the value at risk. Then of course the measure itself, you calculate out, you only can get the value itself, and then they further test it. They carry out the hypothesis test. This test is called the back test to check whether the value at risk they calculate from the sample is a significant or not the significant. Okay. So in the following one, these are the tests here. Okay. So this test they include the first one will be the cubic LR test, likelihood ratio test. If you still remember the likelihood ratio, what you have learned it before in your the first one, when you're testing the distribution one, you're also using the likelihood ratio. Actually, the likelihood ratio can derive for the different thing of the test. So this one is using the cubic likelihood ratio. The concept will be similar. Okay. And then at the same time, they're using another test. It's called the dynamic quantile test. To test their value at risk, how is it significant or not significant of the value at risk they obtain. Okay. So what of course the test itself is for all the students or majority of them is not important. But I want to highlight here is means that once you get your summary statistic or you observe the parameter estimate, you need to support with the test. Okay, whether the hypothesis test is a testing for the mean or testing for the the value at risk, or you want to testing for the distribution is a goodness of fit of the test, then you need to carry out the certain test to support your results. Okay, so in this paper number 8 here, you can see that when they apply the application, they need to provide the summary statistic to know that the data set they obtain. Okay, at the same time, they carry out the Pearson goodness of fit, how good the fit of the data with that particular suggested methodology or suggested distribution. Then after that, they carry out the test and then support with the hypothesis test to for their values they calculated out. Okay. So when you go through the paper number 8 here and the paper of the previous one, when they carry out the test will be different because it depends on the nature of the research itself. Okay. Then for the number 9 here, just now you have seen that the change point, they have a change point they detect in they have a change point here is detect in the quality control. But in fact, the change point also can be happen in your time series data. Okay, so this one is proposed by this author is computational and the analysis of multiple structural change model. So this one is if you have one of the time series, you set the criteria, then you can check in this particular time series how many change points are there. So in this paper, they propose a techniques and then they detect for the multiple structural change models. Okay. So they have provided the 2 data set of here to demonstrate their techniques, and then they show you the graphical presentation, and then after that they have a discussion of their results. Okay, so in terms of their application size, they have 2 empirical results. Okay, but because their objective of this study is want to propose the multiple structural change model, means that they detect for the multiple structural breaks. So therefore, their methodology with a lot of the proving of the statistical proving, and then after that they apply it in the 2 examples here. That one is a paper number 9 here. So even though, as I mentioned, even though they publish in the Journal of Applied Econometrics, but the background is still is a lot of the statistical knowledge and the mathematical knowledge. Okay. So about here they're starting with the multiple linear regression. Okay, so they tell you what is the model they have and then how they're going to detect the multiple change point. Okay, so I don't want to go through the theory here. I will go through the application here. The application will be at his point. Yeah, here. Okay, so if you observe it, this one is quite similar to the previous one. There's just now the change point in the quality control. So in this paper, they provide the 2 examples. The first example, they were using the two application here. One is using the US exposed real interest rate series. Another example will be the given by the analyzed by another authors about the inflation and the shift. Okay. So if you observe the following the time series here, in fact, they consist of the fluctuation. The mean will be shifted from here, and then they change to another model. They change to another here. After that, they change back to here. The time series, they have a lot of the change point. Okay, because if they have a consist of the change in the models, so if you're using the single model to model, maybe your model may not be performed well. So therefore, in the time series, some of the researcher is working on the change point models. Okay, one of them is for example, like the threshold model, where they consist of the two parts of the models. Okay, but of course, this paper they actually is a study on the change point of the data set, then in the time series model. Okay. So this one is the first example they provide, and then of course they provide the empirical results based on their techniques. All these things is just based on their techniques using the change detect for the change point, then whether it's significant or not significant, they have provided here. Okay. Another example will be here is regarding the data set. I think they don't show the data set. They don't just show the data set, but they do not draw the graph here. If you observe that this one is here, is maybe one model, then after that they go up here. Or really, this one is really the change point or not the change point. Okay, so this paper, they have proposed what they have a change point. So the change point not only can be applied in the time series, but just now I have shown it to you, applied in the quality control, also you can have a change point. Okay, so in fact, the research is all interdisciplinary. Okay, so this one is for the paper number 9. If you are interested, of course, these techniques, this change point technique, this paper, the change point technique, the techniques they have written in the R codes. You can be use the R codes from the R software. Okay. So the following one is I provide you the two examples for the cryptocurrency. Okay, when we want to present the results here, okay, the following one is a paper number 10, is a starlight effect of the Bitcoin market. Of course, if you are working on the finance, then you know what is meaning by the starlight effects here. But anyway, in this paper number 10 here, in fact, their target is to be mention about the Bitcoin. So therefore, they provide the data where is a source of the data. Okay, the first thing, the source of the data, they can obtain the data. The second thing, they provide the summary statistic of the data set. After that, they use the graphical presentation, okay, to demonstrate that what they call as the starlight effect of the Bitcoin data. And then they also carry out the hypothesis test on the long memory in the written series. Okay, so these are the thing is where they apply it with the application. Okay, so the application data will be the Bitcoin, and then they demonstrate the data. They can be do the testing, or they can use a graphical way to present their results. Okay, so that one is a paper number 10 here. So this paper is basically on the here on the starlight effect to the Bitcoin. Okay, they publish in the physical A journals. So we go for the here, yeah. So they will mention to you that what is the data of here. Okay, the data set they obtains, what is a series, the source of the data, also they written it there. Okay, because why they need to put there the source of the data? Because the data, sometimes you use a different platform to download the data, you will get a slightly different values for your data. So therefore, I think that when you do the research, you need to mention clearly where is the source of the data. Okay, or you get the source of the data. After that, you do the data cleaning. then you need to mention how are you going to do the data cleaning. Okay, certain journals, they will request the author will supply the data to the journal so that other authors, if they want to produce your work, they can reproduce your work. Or certain journals also, they request the author need to submit the programs, how to write your programming codes. Okay, for if you propose a new technique, then you need to supply your programming codes. So this one will help other authors if they want to compare their methods, their new proposed method with your methods, then they can be use your codes to reproduce the results and then compare with your answer. Okay, so in this data set, they will tell you where is the source of the data. Okay, because this data you can be get easily from the data stream or from the CoinDesk. The Bitcoin is very easy to get it out. But certain data, because just now the statistic data, some of the data you are unable to get it. Therefore, the author will get from the other researcher have analyzed the data. So they just use that one as their demonstrate in their journals paper. Okay. So in this paper, the important thing is they provide the graphical rules of the here. Okay, of course, this one is for us. Maybe we are not doing for their research. We're not clear about this thing. But at least they provide the different different. This one H is actually they are testing the long memory of the series. So they compare for the three different currency. This one is a fiat currency, is a euro and the pound, okay, the UK or pound, and then this one is a Bitcoin. Then they using show the graph here to show you that what are the long memory criteria. The H index, the H here is a call for the long memory, Hertz exponential, okay, of the long memory criteria here. So therefore, they present it out the results of the whether which series have a lot of memory criteria. Okay. Then beside the graphical way of the showing the result, they also carry out the test. Okay, the test to test the presence of the long memory here. Okay. So this one is a descriptive statistic. The test will be here. The test will be mentioned inside the text here. Okay, so they carry out the test. So therefore, you want to show the graph may not be, you show the graphical way is may not be enough. The graphical way is let the reader have some illustration on your results only. But you want to convince the reader or the reviewer about your significance of your results, then you need to support with a certain hypothesis test. Okay, so all the hypothesis tests you need to mesh with your model because there are many of the hypothesis tests, but because they need to mesh with your scenario, then you need to do some adjustment of the formulation. You can some of the tests you cannot directly apply it, then you can get your answer. You still need to have some background of the knowledge of the mathematical knowledge to modify the formula such that it fit with your model. Okay. So this is the following papers will be related to the starlight effects where they are testing for the long memory effects. Okay. After that, this one is the paper is also the cryptocurrency, but in this paper is very short paper. This paper, they first thing they analyze for the 224 cryptocurrencies. If you still recall back previously, I also show you one of the research paper. Also, we analyze for the many cryptocurrency, and then when we analyze the cryptocurrency, we only analyze or provide those of the important one. How we want to measure as an important, we will based on the market capitalization. Okay, of course, you can use the others criteria to group the cryptocurrency as important. So in this paper, they will model for the 224 cryptocurrency series, altogether 224. But after that, they will concentrate on their 5 series, where the 5 series are the 5 important measured by the market capitalization. And then in this research paper, they will provide you those of the time series plots. This one is normally you can be seen in the time series data paper. They provide you the time series plot of the data set. But at the same time, in this paper, they use a box plot to present their results. Okay, so presentation of your result is also one of the skill you need to go through. One of the skill you can be use any of the graphical techniques to present your results. Okay, so they can be provide you the more informative information. Okay, so that this one is a paper for number 11. This is economic letters. Of course, it's very short paper. It's a very short. It's just a few pages. But when they want to modeling of the models, they just provide you the models. But how are you going to use their methodology? The derivation of the formulas is related to the time series knowledge. Then you need to derive it one by one. In the paper itself, they just finally just show you the final, the final models they consider. But about how to derive the equations, how to deal with this is a skewed t distribution, it's a t distribution here. This one is you need to support with your statistic knowledge. Okay. So beside that, how are you going to estimate the parameter of the model itself? Also is another criteria. If I'm not mistaken, this author will consider using the Bayesian technique to estimate the parameters. Okay, and then at the same time, in this paper itself, they deal with the bivariate student t distribution. So you can have learn the distribution theory. At the same time, you use the multivariate idea will come in. And then in this paper as well, they have a time series knowledge. You need to have it. Then how to estimate the parameter of the model, how to estimate a parameter of all these models. You need to know the technique of the estimation techniques. If I'm not mistaken, the author had mentioned using the Bayesian technique to estimate the parameter. Okay, but when we go for that one is about methodology. When we go through the empirical results, this one is a summary statistic they have provided. Okay, so they have provide also the normality test to test whether the return series is a normal or not normal. So this one, the hypothesis testing will support with their answer. So besides they have the hypothesis the normality test, they also can be used the quantile plots to check for the normalities. Okay, but one thing is here is a different from other papers is in this paper they provide the box plot. They use a box plot to present their results. So these are all the parameter estimate they obtain. So from the 224 series, those of the label one is those of the first 5 according to the market capitalization, they label it here. But from the box and whisker plot, we will know that the minimum of the models, what are the parameter estimate for the model, what are the parameter estimate for the largest, and then at the same time, what is the median of the data set? Because they fit for the 224 series, of course, they obtain the 225 points. If you present in your result, they will occupy a lot of spaces. So therefore, this author will suggest to use the technique is called the box and whisker plot. Of course, here there is a 1 point also. Okay, so this one is what they can present the presentation. Okay. So the presentation here, because they want to put it two together, therefore you can observe that the scale of here will be different. The scale of here and the scale of here will be different to put two graphs together. So this is all you need to gather the information and then you present your results. Okay. Of course, if you have plenty of space, then you can present a lot. But if ask you to present all the 224 values in the research paper, I think that one is occupy a lot of spaces. So therefore, you need to find the way to present your results. Okay, similar to when you go out for the working, you also need to find out certain ways to present your result, where is give you the more meaningful results here. Okay, so this one is what I show you about this paper. where they're using the box plot, and then of course they can plot the time series, but they do not choose the plot the time series plot, but they present out the box and whisker plot. Okay. So after that, you have a tool. This tool also the same thing here. Okay. So when we are talking about the time series forecasting, okay, just now I also go through with you when we are talking about time series, then we will deal with the in-sample estimation. We have deal with in-sample estimation, out of sample forecast. Okay. So when we do for these two, basically they were using the different loss function. Okay, they're using the different loss function. How good is your estimate with the true empirical data? Okay. So beside this thing, in their application, in this study, in their application, they also carry out the robustness test to test that whether their model is really a good. Then at the same time, they also carry out the hypothesis test. It's called the MCS test. Okay, to test that whether the model is really the good or not the good performance. So instead of just comparing the loss function, they also carry out the hypothesis test. So based on the almost all the papers I show it to you, you can observe that most of the times when you want to present your result, you not only compare the values itself only. That one is just the descriptive statistic of the surface, but you need to go into the depth where you need to carry out the hypothesis test to test that whether they are significant or not significant. Okay. So this one is the paper number 12 here, where you have this one is also in the finance and economy, but they are work on the here. I show you the empirical example here. They took the data set where they consist of the data. They divided into the two parts. One of them is the in sample, another one is out sample. They divided into the two parts here. Okay. So this one is a very common. You can they divided into two parts in the time series. Okay, I believe that those of you, if you are doing your research project on the big data, okay, the data mining, you also will divide it into the two parts. But you are using the name maybe called the training data. You are using the validate data. Okay, different discipline, they're using the different type of the data. Like in the quality control, they don't use the name called in sample data, out sample data. They use a phase 1 and the phase 2. Okay, so in the different discipline, they are using the different name, but sometimes the nature itself is the same. Okay. So in this paper, they have provided that their study is on the HAR model. In the financial time series model is a HAR model. They're using the realized measure, and then they provide all the summary statistic of here. Okay, so all these things they put the star here is show you that whether they are significant or not significant. They have carried out the hypothesis test. Okay, those are the hypothesis tests they have carried out to test it out. For example, Jack Barra is testing for the normality, then the ADF test. So they were testing out for based on the hypothesis test. The skewness, they also have a test to follow here to show you that whether the test is significant or not significant. They not only present their descriptive statistic. So after that, they provide you the different models. Okay, so how whether the model is significant or not significant, they also show you the test. Okay, the abstract here they show you that the test is a significant at 1%, 5%, or the 10%. Okay, so still related to the hypothesis testing. Besides that, this one is the result of the estimation results here. Okay. Then beside all this thing, beside all these things, in this paper, they're using the out sample. They're using the different loss function to test, to just to measure how good is their model compared to the other existing models. So these are the two loss functions they consider in this study. There are many different types of the loss functions, but this author will suggest these two as their measurement. Okay. And this is, of course, their estimation results. Then finally, they carry out the test, the hypothesis testing also to measure that how good is the out of sample forecasting performance based on their models and the other existing models. So the results are presented here. Okay, their results are presented here. If you know how to read the data, if you know what is the MCS test, then you may know how to read the data. Okay, other than that, we no need to go through it in detail. So this is what they have carried out. What I have shown it to you. Majority of the research you need to support when you have an application. You need to support with the different of the tests. Okay, to support you how good is your model, and then from the model itself, you can be tested whether significant different or not significant different. Okay, so basically these 10 until the for 13 of them, they are basically the same. Okay, in the paper number 13, this paper they consider, if I'm not mistaken, is altogether is a 14 data set. Either it's a 7 or 14 data sets they consider, then they testing it with their proposed methodology using the real data from the different indexes. Okay, for example, the S&P index, the US index, the DJIA index, and so on. And then they also consider using the different type of the models to compare their performance of the models. Then, of course, when you compare your performance of models, because this study, it will study on the theories. When they're talking about the risk, one of the risks, what you have seen before, is a value at risk. So therefore, they need to test whether the variation rate of the risk, and then they use the loss function to measure how good is the model as compared with the existing models. Okay. So this one is a paper number 13, 13, where it's published in the Journal of Financial Economics, but they involve a lot of the theory behind. They need to define what is the expectation of the loss here. Okay. Then they introduce out all the models here. But even though we see that this thing is just a model itself, but when we want to estimate the parameter of the model, when you want to estimate the parameter of all these model, then the statistical knowledge will come in. It's about the estimation techniques. But in this paper, the author will prefer to use the Bayesian techniques to estimate parameter. There are the advantage of using the Bayesian, the author also may have highlight in their paper itself. Okay. So these are all the 4 models in their application wise. They provide the simulation study. Yeah, in the application wise, they analyze the data series from all together is here. As I mentioned, they collect the data from the 7 market indexes. Here are the popular market indexes, and also another 7 individual assets. So it's from the Dow Jones Index. So these are the 7 index. Therefore, just now I say that it's a 7 or the 14 because the 7 index from here, and then another 7 index of the individual asset. So altogether it's a 14 indexes they consider here. So in terms of application wise, they compare about quite number of the models here. Okay, they compare about all these are the model, they do a comparison, then the criteria of how good is their model and the how good is the model, they were using the root mean square error as a loss here, and then they also checking for the variation rates. Okay. Then if they are talking about the value at risk is about the loss, then therefore they need to have a ranking of here. Of course, this one is the way of the presentation by the author itself. Okay. So as a summary for all these 13 paper here, I can show you it's just a different paper. As you can observe that when you go for the applications, you need to supply with the different tools to judge that how good is your application or your model or your technique is matched with the is correctly specified. So you need to support with all the hypothesis testing, and then with their summary statistic or you use a graphical way to present your results. So these are the things is when you go for the application. And then if you go for the research, you're in the, especially you want to publish in the journals, then you may need only one application or two applications. This one is depends on how you want to demonstrate your results. If let's say you use a two example, but the two example also show you the similar work. So if you want to publish in the research journals, then I prefer that you only demonstrate just one is enough, because the nature of data is almost the same. Unless the data is the nature of data is not the same, then you can consider to provide more examples. Okay, but this one also depends on because the journal will be limited spacing, so therefore is also dependent on the journals editors. Yeah, certain journals reviewer or the editor, they request you to put more examples, then you need to do so. Okay, so far I have gone through with you. The first one will be the literature review, the second one will be the methodology, the third one will be the applications. Then I have show you, I think it's almost every week I show you the different type of the different research paper. Okay, almost more I can't remember whether there is an overlap or not. But anyway, you can be see that if you're working, you want to step on the statistic, purely on the statistic, but you still need to support with a certain application. But if you want to go for the different area of the application, then you need to know the research area for that particular area. For example, you want to start working on the multivariate modeling for the real data, then you may use a multivariate. But you cannot say you just use a multivariate. But when you deal with multivariate, they will come in, the estimation problem will come in, because you model it, you need to estimate a parameter, then you need to the model. Unless your research is just purely on using the existing statistical software. Okay, but even though you are using the existing statistical software, but you still need to understand why you use these techniques. Okay, so the background of the statistic is also very important. Don't just blindly go to use, because maybe once you use the technique is inappropriate. Okay, so you need to ask it. So therefore, when you're working on the research, you need to study a lot of the ideas, a lot of the different. You need to reading the different textbook or the different journals paper. Okay, so as an advice for all the students here, okay,